Okay, so in episode 1, we're going to be putting the CPU and RAM into the motherboard. This is pretty straightforward. I'm going to start with the RAM. You want to take your sticks like this and find your RAM slots. Now, since we have 4, we're going to fill the slots, but if you had 2, you look on your motherboard and you will see DIMM 1, 2, 3 and 4 or more if you have more slots.
Yep.
And you want to put them in a 1 to 3 configuration if you only have 2. So slot 1 and slot 3. If you have 4, obviously fill the slots. So I'm going to just fill the slots now. You unclip the side clips here and just lower the RAM into place.
Don't force it. That's the only thing I can say. And that's actually not the only thing I can say.
And
but
just push it down until you hear a nice click. Make sure that that's in there.
don't snap the RAM. That's
There
it.
we go. There's the other one right there.
So that's the second one.
So the second one now. Pull the clips back. It's easier to just pull the clips back like this. Lower that into place. Side by side. Clips on. Click. That one's already in. Just make sure that that's level. Yep, that's in there. Okay, so final 2 sticks now. Drop the first one into place.
There we go.
Both sides in. Clips on the side. Make sure it's level. Yeah, that's in there.
There you go.
Final stick. Just lower it into place. Clips on the side. That will crunch in like that.
There you go.
Listen for the click. And they are in there. Okay, so the next step is to put in the CPU. This is a very delicate part and probably the most important part of building a computer. So, take your CPU, make sure that it's the right way up. This is an Intel CPU and a socket 1155. So you want to make note of the side curves.
Yeah.
There. Line it up after removing the clip on the motherboard, which can be done by unhooking the safety. Pull the lift back, just slot it up like that. Then you've got your pins exposed. On an AMD motherboard and CPU, the pins will be on the CPU. With Intel, the pins are on the motherboard. So, line up the sides, make sure your CPU is facing the right way. Try not to touch the top of the CPU when you're doing this. Just line it up and slot it in like so. Just check first before you lower the actual bar that it is in there firmly, like that. And it's all slotted in. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so I'm now going to lower. Just bring it back like that, slot it underneath that little screw there, and then we lower the pressure. Like so, and hook it under. There we go. So now that is making good contact with the motherboard. That's all in place. Okay, so the next step is to put the motherboard into the case. So we're going to go over here to our case now. Now, as you can see, in the case here, we actually have standoffs, which are the screw slots for the motherboard, pre-applied for an ATX motherboard. Now, as we're using an ATX motherboard today, we do not need to put in any additional standoffs, but you need to note carefully where these standoffs are for your particular motherboard. So, in the ATX configuration, you have 333, but for other configurations, as marked here on the back of this case, such as Micro ATX or ITX or XL ATX, you will have to put the standoffs in different places. So for the standoffs, they will come in a screw bag right here. You'll want to screw them in, noting the holes on your motherboard for the standoffs. You'll want to lower them in and double check the holes. So we've got them pre-applied here, so I'm going to go ahead and put the backplate on. Now the backplate will come in your case, well, your box for your motherboard. You need to put this on the right way. You can put it in from the back. Some of them go in from the front, but this one goes in from inside. So just take note of where it's actually going to be. So the audio at the bottom on the motherboard, take note of which side up this is going to go in. I know that they're supposed to be at the bottom, so I'm going to pop this in. There we go, just a clip in there. And and make sure that that is in there securely. Okay, there we go. So that backplate is in there. That's your I/O shield. Now coming over to the motherboard, we're going to lift it and place it on top of your standoffs. Now make sure they are in the right place or you may short circuit the board. You do not want a standoff anywhere where it shouldn't be. The I/O shield will help you for this because you can slot them in with the I/O shield. I've actually got some caps on this motherboard I quickly need to remove.
Yeah. That'd probably be
just a couple of caps there, which you may or may not also have. Now, some of these can be quite tricky to lower in depending on the I/O plate. This one seems to be pretty easy. There we go. Okay, now the next step is to double check all these holes are matching with your standoffs. Just a quick check over there. Yes, they are. Like I said earlier, you do not want any standoffs in where they shouldn't be. These standoffs are in the right place. So now we're going to go ahead and screw this in. The screws will be provided in your case or motherboard box. $7mm there. Okay, so here are the screws here. These are the 5mm. They're slightly wider than the normal 5mm that will come. Please check your manual, and unfortunately in this case the manual didn't say, so we just had to try out some different sizes, but it's the thicker 5mm. They're thicker than the normal 5mm. So I'm just going to take these screws out now and put them in. Just lower them gently into the holes. Grab your screwdriver. And you don't want to put these in too tight. If you put these in too tight, then there's a small risk of actually cracking the board. You just want to put it in until it's snug. Don't try and tighten it too tight. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, that's pretty much in there. Get another one. Just go around. I like to do the same ones in a line. You should, a better way of doing it would probably do just a crisscross, but since you're not really applying a lot of pressure here, there's no worries. Okay, that's it nice and snug.
Okay.
Third one in there. Just make sure that that's threaded in correctly and tighten it down. That's snug.
Yep. Steps to go.
Okay, so nice. Yeah. So once your screws are in, just double check that they are snug. You don't want any loose, but like I said, don't try and tighten them down too much. Just make sure that they are all in there. Nice and snug. Just that one up there. Yep, that's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, just give them a quick run over. Okay, so that is putting the motherboard in the case. See us in part 2 for installing the CPU cooler.